All right, y'all. Today we're going to check out, see if this boudoir photography business has BSS for its local Google search, West Pasco, Washington, or see if it has it for its city search, Tri Cities, Washington. And we're back here in the GBC universe where we're taking declining boudoir photographers to the number one boudoir photographer in their city. As always, our North Star here is FSIC, full spectrum intent capture. More on that, pinch post, home video, pinned video, somewhere around here. And that's because FSIC explains why all boudoir photographers either rise or fall. So we got our FSIC graph here in white. Highest intent peeps on the left. These are peeps searching for both boudoir photo shoot in their city today. I focus on them and make videos about actually getting them to come to us. Videos about BSS. Over on the right, there's the lowest intent peeps. We talk about getting these peeps to come to us on our sister brand or sister channel, Boudoir FB Ad Doctor, where we talk about BLCS. And currently over there, we only work with boudoir photographers running more than 10 grand per month in boudoir Facebook ads. So BSS, boudoir search sameness. That's when a boudoir photographer has either 0 or 1 slots on page 1 of Google. Both are bad. 0, extra bad. If we got 0 slots page 1, that means we're page 2 or deeper. And we know approximately 80% of Google searches never even hit page 2. So if we end on page 1, we're visible to approximately 80% of searchers, approximately 80% of buyers, approximately 80% of the market, so the bulk of the market. Bad, extra bad. Also, 1 slot page 1, that ain't good enough anymore. That's bad as well, because guess what? There's 9 other organic slots page 1. It's probably going to be 9 other boudoir photographers there, so everyone's got 1 slot. We're looking the same as everyone else. Not standing out, not looking special. So boudoir buyer, what they're going to do is they're just going to click down, open everyone's website, opens everyone's website up and, literally get a quote, fill out everyone's contact form, get a quote from everyone, price shop, price compare, negotiate, waste everyone's time, blah, blah, blah. And, only 10% of the time we're going to get that person to buy from us. So that other 90% of the time we're wasting it. And 0-1 slots on page 1 Google is actually not normal. It's not normal to have such a small few number of page 1 links on Google search. But it is accepted, and it is, commonplace, but it's not normal. It's actually a symptom of 2 deeper root causes. And I know this is normal because I went from 0 out of 10 slots, page 1 of Google search, to 9 out of 10 slots, page 1 of Google search, in only 10 days utilizing this new methodology we developed. Now, these 2 deeper root causes here are 1, market saturation, 2, the false belief of page 1 equality. Market saturation, basically everyone knows about that. Over time, people get kind of new devices, new gear, new iPhone, new camera, and eventually people throw up their Google My Business profile, and then they now shoot boudoir, or they throw up their, website saying they now are a boudoir photographer, or they're posting them on Facebook groups that they now offer boudoir photo shoots. So it's more boudoir photographers competing for the same number of buyers makes it harder for every single boudoir photographer. Now, the false belief of page 1 equality, this is new to most people. Very, very, it used to be very common to accept this. Very common to accept that, every boudoir photographer is, gets 0-1 slots page 1 on Google, and either you get it or you don't, and it's not much you can do about it. And even if you had 1 slot on page 1 on Google, well, maybe there's some market saturation, and that slot, goes away, or then you go down to page 2. Well, you got to kind of hope those people leave the market, and then hope Google puts you back on page 1. So it's kind of like a learned helplessness belief, but it's not true. We've learned it's not true because, again, I went from 0 out of 10 slots page 1 Google search to 9 out of 10 slots page 1 on Google search in only 10 days. So we know the false belief page 1 equality. Now we know that it is exactly that, a false belief. We also know that boudoir photographer with BSS is a disappearing boudoir photographer, DBP. And yeah, dude, if we're on page 2 or deeper, we're invisible to approximately 80% of the marketplace. If we're on page, and if we're on page 1, everyone else has got 1 slot on, all the other 9 competitors got 1 slot as well. So we're essentially invisible as well. So if we're on page 2 or deeper, we're dying fast. If we're on page 1 with 1 slot, we're dying slow. In both cases, we're disappearing boudoir photographer, which actually is kind of like the warning light, the red flag, the canary in the coal mine that tells us our boudoir photography business itself is actually on the path to disappearing. It's now starting down that path. Thankfully, we have discovered a solution though. We've discovered that BSS is treated with social search saturation, aka S cubed methodology. And it works exactly as it says. You know, we saturate social search with the highest intent boudoir buyer keywords, making sure that we show up there. And what this acts like is basically like the snow at the top of the Andes Mountains, the eastern side, the backside of these Andes Mountains down in South America. The snow up there, what it does is it, all year it's melting into streams, melting, the streams, small streams, it's flowing to small rivers, but it all eventually comes to be collected in the Amazon River. That's where all the water actually comes from. And that page one on Google search is the Amazon River, but we got to first stuff, SQ methodology. We got to first saturate, do social search saturation, put the snow up there at the top of the mountain, so then all those videos, links can flow into page one of Google search. And this is the only solution I've seen for boudoir photographers that can actually enable them to grow during periods where the market's getting more and more saturated every day, and give them that opportunity in a relatively quick time frame. The only other solution I've seen allow people to do that is having a large, well-known brand, but that takes on average, 5 to 10 years. We ain't got 5 to 10 years anymore, dude. AI is here. We need results. We need a opportunity ASAP. And actually, interestingly enough, S-cube methodology, by my estimates, can actually help those actually build a large, well-known brand approximately 8x faster than all these other kind of standard ways of doing it, just because we're doing more volume on more surfaces and showing up in the right places way more often over time. It's kind of like a double bonus of utilizing S-cube methodology. So example now. All right, so we are right now going to, let's say, we're going to Boise, Idaho. And there are 1 million boudoir photographers in Boise, Idaho. We're one of them. Everyone's got a website saying they do boudoir photography. And as a result, everyone's website's trying to rank page one on Google as much as possible. Ultra competitive. We're like, man, we ain't got no large, well-known brand. Literally the only thing left that allows us to compete effectively is S-cubed methodology. So we decided to crank it to the max, like way more than a average boudoir photographer would. And let's say we're taking up the first, 300 slots of social search across all the social platforms, and then that flows onto Google search. And let's say we're taking up the first 300 organic slots on Google. Well, it's 10 organic slots, per page on Google. So we're literally taking basically the first 30 pages of Google. So whenever a boudoir buyer searches for us anywhere digitally, we basically got like the first 300 slots to ourselves. So we are, basically we're basically the only one they can find, whether they're searching social media, they're searching Google, basically the only one they can find. So in this case, they'd have to, scroll to slot 301, or would that be on Google page 31 to find us? And so in this case, whose business is growing? Whose boudoir photography business is growing? Most likely only ours, because we're basically the only one that can be found by buyers. And whose boudoir photography businesses are dying, disappearing, going invisible? Well, most likely the other 999,999 boudoir photographers competing against us in Boise, Idaho. And so this is, kind of an ultra example of what S-cube methodology, kind of the opportunity it could give to a boudoir photography business, but this is like an ultra extreme version, ultra extreme example version. Now, once treated with S-cube methodology, we have page one visibility. So yeah, we're getting more links page one Google search. And the second initial benefit we're getting is every new link we get on page one Google search, good for us. And we're actually kicking a competing boudoir photographer off page one, effectively making them invisible. This is awesome. So we can literally control how many of our competitors are on page one of Google search are not organic by our effort in acquiring these organic Google slots. And it's good because these slots have some momentum, not infinite momentum, but they do have some momentum. Unlike Google PPC ads or any ads, that momentum goes to zero the instant you stop paying for them. And let's see. Yeah, so a lot of boudoir photographers like this. They're like kick their competitors off. And page one visibility activates Boudoir search visibility for us BSV. This is where the GBC universe recommends hitting a minimum or having a minimum of 3 out of 10 slots page one Google search as the minimum. More is obviously better, but that's because basically every other Boudoir photographer is going to have one slot each on page one. So if we got 3, we're dominating. Everyone else has got 1. We're actually standing out, actually looking unique. And the super rare train, someone has 2. Well, we still got 3, so we're dominating them as well. So we're basically kind of dominating in all scenarios here. We also know that Boudoir photographer with BSV is a visible Boudoir photographer, a VBP. So this is our micro universe here. A disappearing Boudoir photographer with BSS Boudoir search sameness is caused by the dual horns of market saturation and the false belief of page one equality. Thankfully, we now have a solution. Thank the universe. SQ'd methodology. We use that to achieve page one visibility, become a visible Boudoir photographer, and have Boudoir search visibility. All right, so now my results utilize an SQ methodology. So I actually wanted to rank for this keyword, well, I want to dominate page one for this keyword, BLCS Boudoir. So I went to work purely utilizing SQ methodology and see my results. We're going down the organic slots. So organic slot 1, Instagram, me. Slot 2, me. Slot 3, me. Slot 4, me. Slot 5, me. Slot 6, me. Slot 7, me. Slot 8, me. Slot 10, me. And so I went from 0 to 10 slots, Google page 1, to 9 out of 10 slots, Google page 1 search in only 10 days, purely utilizing SQ'd methodology. All right, so main event here. I'm going to see if this boudoir photography business has BSS for the local search and the city search, these 2 Google searches. All right, so let's look at West Pasco. So it's the local search. So let's see what we got. Going down to organic. So here we go. We got 1. Boom, we got 2. Let's see. Boom, we got 3. Boom, we got 4. All right, so we got 4 out of 10. Awesome. So we do not have BSS for our local search, and we do meet the GBC minimum of 3 out of 10. Good. So we've kicked off a bunch of competitors from our search here. So that's local. Let's search at the city level. Same Tri-Cities, Washington. Check this out. Boom. All right, we got 1. That's a sponsored. Nice. We got 2 right there with the threads. Nice. We got 3. All right, boom. This is perfect. This is exactly what we want. So we do not have, going back. So we do not have BSS for the local search. We do not have BSS for the city search. That's super awesome. We've hit the GBC minimum for both. So I can basically guarantee this business is not disappearing. So they're either treading water or most likely growing because they're hitting all the metrics we got to be hitting for the highest intent people. Those are closest to the money, easiest to convert. So perfect. This is exactly what we want to see. That's what every boudoir photographer needs to get to. Well, for those that want to become the #1 boudoir photographer in their city. So if you're a disappearing boudoir photographer, you've done your local search, you've done your city search, either have BSS for one of those or you're not meeting the GBC recommended minimum of 3 out of 10 for one of those. And you realize this means you're starting to disappear. A disappearing boudoir photographer. This is the first kind of flag, the first kind of warning light. If we start becoming disappearing here, eventually the business becomes disappearing as well. And you're seeing SQ methodology like, yes, this is exactly what I need. This is what you've been wanting to use or wanting to have as a solution for a while. And you've already broken out the false belief of page one equality. And you understand market saturation. Yeah, people get new gear, okay. And you're loving the initial awesome benefits, SQ methodology, more links, page one Google, kicking more competitors off page one on Google, kind of making them become disappearing boudoir photographers. And you're looking ahead and you're seeing, since you understand market saturation, you're actually seeing that AI is going to be taking a ton of people's jobs more and more over time. So it's literally going to be kind of bringing in a larger and larger amount of boudoir photographers over time. So you realize you got to fortify your position on page one on Google, not just get it right now, but actually kind of build up even excess links in the back end in reserve that so many links out there that actually prevents any future competing boudoir photographers from getting on page one either. And you're saying, okay, SQ methodology is also the only thing you see that can accomplish that. So it's kind of a near-term extra benefit. And you want to achieve boudoir search page one visibility, so that you become a visible boudoir photographer with boudoir search visibility, because you know you need those things in order to become the number one boudoir photographer in your city. And you also understand the future back-end benefits of becoming number one, or of utilizing SQ methodology. Is basically the first one is you're building up these invisible thematic keyword columns, kind of like plugged into your brand, plugged into your business name, your website, your social media handles, or kind of like spokes, hub and spoke, plugging these different spoke columns into your brand that actually bring, that actually eat up mind share in the back end Google AI kind of like mind brain. And so, that every day we successfully execute SQ methodology, higher chance you'll be getting recommended here AI overview, because you're basically bundling up kind of these, these building up repetition, authority, relevance, frequency, age of these invisible thematic keyword columns that takes up AI mindshare, which also increases the probability of recommended AI search. ChatGPT growing AI search growing every single day. ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini. Google search is still, approximately 90% of global search, but AI search is literally growing every day. It's what I use most frequently. It's basically just give me the summary. I don't want to click through it after read and figure these things out myself. And I know last time I did search for boudoir photographers in a city that I got 3, and then I went searching myself on Google, and there's like approximately 60 in that city. So I'm like, okay, we definitely got to be building momentum here, increase the probability of recommended in these 3 slots. And you're seeing, okay, SQ methodology is the only thing that will build these invisible thematic keyword columns for you to achieve this increase in probability of AI search being recommended for AI search. And you're also understanding that, my current plan is to only work with 1 boudoir photographer per city. So you decide, hey, you're going to jump on this first, get all these initial benefits, box out your competitors so they can't use me, build up this kind of invisible momentum gap with your competitors to where, we can get it to where essentially they can never, ever catch up to us. And, the converse, if your competitor were to work with me first, that you'd actually have to go rederive or derive SQ methodology for yourself. And then you'd have to go execute it. But you would never be 100% confident putting in the time to execute it, because you would not know if you've even derived it correctly in the first place. And, when you'd have to equal our execution every day with me and your competitor, and that's simply to maintain the gap. To actually make up progress, you'd have to double or triple our output every single day using the system I invented, and to close that gap, be able to basically pull that AI mindshare back from me and your competitor, kind of those invisible thematic keyword columns. And who's got 80 hours in a day to do that? So you're like, screw that. You've decided you're going to be first mover of your city to actually get all this stuff done. And so if that's you, shoot me a DM. My DMs are currently closed. The hospital is currently closed, not taking any new patients. But when my DMs do open, shoot me a DM and we'll see if you qualify for utilizing our S cubed methodology.